This is Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast prepared by the team at Paper Trails. Owning and running a small business is hard. Each week, we'll dive into the challenges, headaches, trends, fun, and excitement of running a small business. After all, small businesses are the heartbeat of America, and our team is here to keep them beating. Welcome to Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast talking about all things small business. This week, I have Chris Fortin with us with Service Bros. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So before we get going, of course, our usual housekeeping. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, rate, review, all of those fun things. We're at Small Business Big World everywhere you listen to your podcast and all the socials. Don't forget about that. Be sure to email any questions you have for us to podcast@papertrails.com. We're happy to answer those on the podcast. So, Chris, Service Bros, talk to me about what you guys do at Service Bros.
Yeah, so we started off doing a little bit of everything, but right now our niche is furniture moving, furniture deliveries, household goods moving, and junk removal. And we do slight brush removal too.
Okay. So Service Bros, you started this in high school, right? How old were you when you started this?
Yeah, this was my junior year of high school. Started doing the odd jobs and everything. So I was about 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why'd you want to start doing that?
Well, long story. So I was working at a restaurant down in Kennebunkport, throughout high school and everything. And then once COVID hit, they unfortunately went out of business. So I was out of a job. And so this was during the lockdown and everything, I was trying to think about what to do for the summer. And my father owned a landscaping company, and he was putting in new lawns for customers that didn't live in town. So they weren't around. He was seeding them. So they weren't around to water them. They didn't have irrigation. So he had hired me to do the lawns, to water the lawns twice a day, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. And so I had my little route, and I did my lawns. I'd water at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. And my dad would pay me like $20 a lawn, which is a good little gig, making like $160 a day, just watering lawns. But it was kind of a grind getting up. And when I was watering the lawns, I was thinking, I don't want to be doing this all summer. I always had, landscaping as like my fallback, but that's not really something I wanted to fully do. So I kept thinking of little business ideas, and I was kind of getting sick of waking up at 4:30, whatever, to go water the lawns for the sunrise. So I had hired my friend Thomas to do the morning lawns at a little discount. So I hired him at like $15 a lawn.
So you had a subcontractor already?
Yeah, it's my first feeling of getting like an employee.
Yep.
So I would pay, my dad would pay me the total, and I would pay Thomas at the end of the week for all the lawns that we did. So I was making some money in my sleep. So it was a really good kind of feeling. And then eventually, while I was watering, I came up with the idea of Service Bros, just basically selling our labor to people doing a bunch of odd jobs, doing a bunch of random things at our own price.
Nice. So when you hired Thomas, you kind of got into it. How did you guys market yourself to prospects? Was it through your network, through your father and things like that?
Well, I think just speaking to the Kennebunk community is huge. It's word of mouth, especially like Facebook groups. Our first ever job, we did a deck staining job for my sister's family that she babysat for. And they were new to town. And they just moved in, and they had this old deck, and they wanted to kind of revamp. And they asked us to, pressure wash it, sand it, and stain it. And, it was my first time doing that, but we just looked it up on YouTube, kind of looked up how to do it, and we decided to just give it a shot. We gave it a price based on the quotes that they got from other companies, went like $1,000 cheaper. It's our first time doing it, but we spent the whole week doing it, me and Thomas, and came out really well. And we split the money 50-50, and that was my first kind of taste of the whole, earning a better wage than whatever you get at a normal restaurant job. So then we would post it on Facebook, and then that's how it kind of spread.
Nice. So how did you talked about the pricing there. Were you guys pricing your labor hourly? That's a big question, right? How do I price myself? How do I figure that out? How did you guys go through that process?
Yeah, originally we just chose a number. We chose $25 an hour per guy. So Thomas and I would each make $25 an hour, and that was way better than what we were getting before. So we were happy with it, and customers were happy because it was a lot cheaper than the movers or the other labor you could hire.
Yep. So I know you guys evolved over time. So, certainly you were just two guys kind of starting working out. My guess is probably the tax situation wasn't, totally up on the up and up, which is, to be expected. But, why did you transition that business? Because now you have an LLC and, you have advisors, you have a business, you have more than just, one employee, right? How did you figure out that you needed to move in that direction? How'd you do that?
Yeah, so in that first summer, it definitely was more of like a side hustle. We just get Venmos with our cash checks right to our names, and yeah, it's a little shady. So eventually it was actually last my sophomore year of college, we set up the LLC. Because once we started making real money, I was like, okay, I should start doing this legit, especially if I wanted to scale. I think having a good foundation to build upon is the biggest thing. So I wanted to do it the right way. So actually, I had met up with SCORE in Southern Maine. They have mentors for you and totally free, just mentor services. And I met my mentor, Heidi Hansen. She's great, owned a big company, had sold it, and then now she just helps volunteer and help individuals start businesses, kind of do it the right way. So I was speaking with her my second summer into the business, just kind of like getting the idea and start thinking about what to do and how to do it. And then eventually my sophomore year of college, we implemented the LLC. And then come the summertime, we had the payroll and insurance all set up and the whole 9 yards. So
you were ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, how has the business grown and taken off over the years? I mean, obviously, how many employees do you have now?
Right now, it kind of fluctuates based on the summer. There's a lot of more demand in the summer, but I'd say we have around 5 to 8.
Which is great.
Full to part-time guys, yeah.
Right, and that's just doing odd jobs. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because none of us want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's really great. So what have you seen in terms of, as you've grown, what are the things you've learned in that growth? What do those struggles look like?
Well, yeah, I mean, growing, I think you just have to be able to adapt and also finding a little bit of a niche. We started out doing a little bit of everything, pressure washing, deck painting, lawn care, whatever, light landscaping, moving, just a little bit of everything. And over time, we kind of figured out what we like and what we don't like. So from there, we just, had to tell customers, we're not offering that anymore. We stopped advertising that. And we kind of went down to our niche, which was moving, because it doesn't require a lot of equipment, doesn't require a lot of stuff. It's mostly just manual labor services. So that became our big niche. And a big break was we ended up working with a local hospitality company and their design team, where they would have their designers kind of buy stuff for their properties, and they'd hire us to go set it all up, move things.
Doing the seasonal setups.
Doing the seasonal setups, decorating and all that kind of stuff. So that was huge to get into that market, kind of being the local muscle for those types of companies. So that kind of what allowed us to grow, and just being flexible is what allowed us to do that.
What, certainly I'm sure you've met some of the moms in town that, what bad experiences have you had? What, and that was a total stereotype, but, meaning the cranky moms, but, how have you dealt with customers that have had issues, right? Or, have you had any of those issues?
I can't really name any off the top of my head, but ultimately
5 stars on Google for service pros?
Yeah, I hope so. Haven't checked. I think just being totally transparent with customers is the biggest thing. If you're not comfortable doing something, just letting them know, like, I don't feel comfortable doing this, and referring to somebody that might be better equipped to do it, especially starting out. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew, because it kind of digs yourself into a hole. So I've been trying to avoid those types of situations. But if any of those did arise, we just, customer's always right, and you just have to, bite the bullet and just take the loss. And
I think it's good to know your limits, right? Know what you want to do, know what you're good at. Don't try to do something you don't want to do and aren't good at, right?
Right.
That's when the problems usually happen. So I think that's a great piece of advice.
That comes with trial and error. Like we said, we started doing a little bit of everything, and then we found out what we like, what we're good at, what we don't like. So we kind of pushed that aside and started focusing on the good stuff.
So obviously I know you work, your buddy Thomas is kind of your business partner, right?
Yep.
So how has that been, working with your friend, right?
Yeah.
How has it evolved from being a peer to being leader, right? That's always the challenge we all have as leaders.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially in the start, and still now, I always put our friendship over money or over any business. So, like in the start, I was operating the Facebook, I was talking to the customers, scheduling the jobs, and Thomas was doing the jobs with me, but we just split everything 50-50 initially, just because I didn't want to bicker over, pennies on the dollar, whatever, and so then once we had the LLC formed, I put it as a sole proprietorship for myself, it makes it a lot easier and less complicated instead of having business partners. I learned that from my dad. And so that dynamic changed to where Thomas was an employee now, but I made sure to treat him fairly and properly. Big thing is just communicating, just making sure that you're on the same page through everything, being totally transparent, because without him, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yep.
And, maintaining that friendship is the biggest thing. I mean, we're friends first, and if the business goes down, then it doesn't matter, because I still have him as a friend.
So how are you managing this? You're out of college now, right? So how are you managing things from away, right?
Yeah, so that's a huge thing is keep having Thomas around. He's been around home and managing all the jobs. So we switched from me kind of managing everything in the back end, giving him more responsibility. So he deals with the customer communications and like the day-to-day and managing the jobs and making sure they're done right, because we've learned over time how to do them properly. So he kind of is like, he's my general manager. So,
Nice.
he gets compensated. We have commission based on certain jobs. He gets commission for those jobs. So he gets paid more than the normal employee or crew leader or worker, So
Great. And you've really built a process around that, which is important in every business.
yeah, exactly.
It's great. With, being away at college, where do you see the business going from here, right? You have a couple of years left of college, business is going well. Where do you see this being the next 20 years of your life? Do you see this being something, that's just been a great, hustle through, the years, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, so initially, I'm a junior at Bentley University. I'm studying finance, so I have one more year left. Well, the rest of the semester and one more year. And initially, I just always thought of it as kind of like a side hustle and just a learning experience, starting a business. But now I think it's kind of grown into something where I just don't really want to let go of it, if that makes sense. I want to keep it around. I feel like a sense of pride coming home and seeing the truck and the trailer go around with the logo on it, and just feel like we have a deep rooted into the community. A lot of people rely on us for affordable moving, whether it's between your house or between like we work with the Habitat for Humanity Restore, just providing like affordable options for people. And I see a big need for that, and I just love like giving back to the community.
So who knows where it's going to go? Sounds like it's onward and upward, which is great.
Onward and up.
So
I want to maintain it as much as possible and keep growing and keep learning as much as possible.
So if you had to go back to your junior year in high school, right, when you started this, what advice would you give yourself, right? What have you learned over those last few years?
Honestly, just keep trying. There's no time. If I thought, back then, if I thought to the future, like in 4 years and said like, oh, I want to be here, I feel like I wouldn't know where to start. I'd be kind of overwhelmed. I wouldn't know how to get there. So it's not really a point to kind of like look out to the future. It's good to set goals, small achievable goals, and just keep going and keep like moving forward. Just taking those little steps at a time. There's no better time to start than now.
Right.
Like if you're young or old, you can always use age as an excuse, but I think no matter what, you should just keep.
I think you found that if you work hard and you do a decent service or a decent product, then the sky's the limit, right?
Right. Just do something you like doing and that you're confident in doing, and learn as you go.
So you worked with a score advisor, right? So I know they're really heavy on sending, helping you build your business plan, helping you get in touch with strategic advisors and things like that. What else did they help you with?
Well, it mostly was just the logistics. I had, I reached out to them with after 2 years of being in operations, but at that point it was just like a side hustle. We had my process kind of set up, my pricing set up, how we run things, and they really helped me get legal and working with accountants and stuff. I am working with my family accountant that had worked for my dad's company, so
Great.
That was an easy in. And so they just helped with like legalize everything and allow me to kind of learn the ropes, because without them, I wouldn't know really what I'm doing.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the podcast about, having those, trusted advisors, right? It's the accountant, it's the attorney, it's the financial advisor, so much more. And those really, we're not experts in everything, right? So
Right.
Even it doesn't matter if you're starting a business in high school, you're, starting it at 50, still not probably going to be the expert in everything. So
yeah, exactly. And just having those ideas is important. And then, working with a team to kind of build upon those ideas, is important. Yeah.
That's great. Any other thoughts or advice on where you've been? What are you thinking?
All right. So another piece of advice I was thinking is you can't like compare yourself to other people. Like I could look at like big moving companies like College Hunks or like 2 men in a truck, right?
Yep.
And I could be like, I'm never going to be like that. But I feel like that's comparing apples to oranges. I feel like everyone's journey is their own thing.
Yep.
And I don't want to base my company off of what other people are doing. I want to do my own thing.
Sure.
And like you learn as you go. You don't want to like have a predetermined mindset. Like I didn't come into it saying, oh, I'm only going to do moving, junk removal,
Right.
Furniture deliveries. You kind of just build out those niches. Go.
And that's great. So I certainly don't compare yourself, but I think you want to see what the market is, right? So, and understand, how do you differentiate yourself?
Exactly.
Right? And how did you guys figure that out? How did you say, hey, well, we're different than 2 men in a truck, right?
Well, I think a big advantage to us was being that we were young and cheap. A lot of people, I think, initially like to help out, like the local high schoolers that are looking to earn a buck, and that just is a test to our community and how Kennebunk is. It's great. So I think that was a big boost in the beginning. And from there, it kind of gave us the confidence to keep branching out and working with other companies allowed us to get the confidence.
Well, building the network and
Exactly.
obviously getting the feedback from your clients and
Mhm.
all that, right? So, well, good. Well, how can folks find you guys? Service Pros on Instagram, online?
Yeah, so right now we have a Facebook page. We're looking to build out a website for the summer. We're looking at, so this past 2023 is our first like legit year, and we got a trailer. We just got a truck recently for 2024. So we're looking at kind of build up our company. So right now it's just Service Pros 207 on Facebook,
Okay.
and looking to, like I said, looking to get a website going and more automation.
Any young entrepreneurs, anybody that needs any moving in the main area here, southern main area, certainly reach out. So, well, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Hey, just a reminder, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, review, all of those fun things on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok. We're everywhere. If you're there, we're there. Promise you that. So at Small Business Big World. And again, don't forget, if you have any questions about anything, you can always reach out to us, podcast@papertrails.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Small Business Big World. This podcast is a production of Paper Trails. We are a payroll and HR company based in Kennebunk, Maine, and we serve small and mid-sized businesses across New England and the country. If you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to follow us at Paper Trails Payroll across all social media platforms, and check us out at papertrails.com for more information. As a reminder, the views, opinions, and thoughts expressed are the hosts and guests alone. The material presented in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered legal or financial advice. By inviting this guest to our podcast, Paper Trails does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific individual, organization, product, or service.